everybody. We thought we'd add a little bit of a fun music to get us going today. I know some of you are just sitting there sometimes waiting for a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds for us to come on. So yeah, we're just going to try some new music out and kind of do a little fun and funky whatever. So if you have any requests, of course, we can only use free royalty free ones. But welcome everybody to Audrey Live. It is September 10th. Yeah, fall is in the air. Fall is in the air. It's a little cooler out, but it's still very sunny today and just enjoying the beautiful fall weather. Yeah, and not being so warm. I know some people are a little bugged by those bees. My friend Janice cannot sit outside at this time of year because she's terrified of bees. So, and I'm sure there's more of you out there that are as well. So, yeah, anyway, thank you for coming and joining us. Make sure you mention where you're from. We like to see where people are from. And, just get a little bit of information about you as well. And, where you're from, what you're up to, why you're joining us. What do you like about the show? What would you like to see in future shows? We're kind of working on our fall schedule right now. And, we want to keep bringing new and exciting information to you and different guests. So we'll just keep on trucking along, so to speak. And yeah, let us know what you'd like to see. Make sure that you ask questions, share, comment, all that sort of thing along the day, along the hour, I should say. And also you can go to our YouTube channel, Pin It Canada, and to see any of the past shows or to rewatch any shows, of course. Oh yeah, we're in our last week of self-isolation. Corey got home last week, as most of you know. And so we have, I think, 3 days. Saturday, officially, we can leave the house, or the property. So we're really excited for that and to start doing a little bit of visiting with family and friends again. And Corey had posted last week on our Facebook, what COVID change would you keep once COVID is over? So a few more comments that came through that I just wanted to share. Joe Morgan said less shopping and eating out. That's true. We do find that we're not, if we're shopping, we're just kind of doing our local shopping. So that's one thing we'll probably do too. Jen Dunlop said only going out shopping when we need something and more frequent hand washing, which is so true. Debbie James, definitely having a flu shot this year, she says. I think that's something a lot of us will do. Mary Francis, I'll keep ordering groceries online for pickup. Glad that she figured this out. It's so easy and you don't have to go inside in that germ-ridden air, she says. Yeah, we've done that this week too, or the last 2 weeks. We've ordered our groceries and my other daughter just kind of pulls in, they bring it out to her and it's easy peasy. Let's see, Debbie Cole, so many things, but especially using Zoom to teach and meet with friends, which is really kind of, yeah, neat. I do find that I don't really call people much on the phone anymore. I Zoom them and it's just become a way of life. Terry Greencorn will likely maintain social distancing. She says she likes her personal space, less physical shopping and more online. Zoom meetings for work, classes, and chats with extended family. Bobby Cosby said teaching classes outdoors. Everybody loves it. That's yeah, as long as the weather's good, that's wonderful. We have Lorraine Fletcher. Neither of her sisters live in the same province as she does. And since the pandemic began, they're having a sisters call every week for about 2 hours, maybe some more on some days. I think we will always do this now. Sisters are so important. And that's so true. You start to connect in a different way. Brenda Greenwood says she has started sewing again. It has been fun losing the day to her creativity. So that's just a few more comments that we got. Keep them coming. We'll just update people. It's just kind of neat to see what everybody, what they are going to continue doing once this COVID is, I guess, done or over and next stage, wherever we are, right? So we are super excited again to have our Pin It Canada live event, virtual event on October 23rd and 24th, and it'll again be on Facebook on our Pin It Canada page, and it'll be profiled, or it'll be put on all of our pages, but it'll be mainly on the Pin It Canada page, or that's where it'll start. I guess I don't know. I can't figure this Pin It or this Facebook and pages and all that kind of stuff. So my daughter Corey's been doing a lot of that for me. And actually, with that being said, quickly, sorry, now I'm kind of jumping from one thing to the other. I apologize. We did have to make a few changes with our pages. So we were trying to change one of our pages that was Audrey Young to Audrey Live, and it wouldn't let us at first, or it wouldn't let us because there was somebody else who had Audrey Live. It was lingerie. So we had to start a new page. So please make sure you like that new page and share it and all that kind of stuff so we get that built up again. So anyway, back to our Pin It Canada live virtual event, October 23rd and 24th. We have already some amazing companies involved in that day. That'll be, or the 2 days that'll be presenting. So I'll just mention some of them that we have so far. We have Ecstasy Crafts, General Pencil with Kathy Hansen, Renia, Emerald Creek, Joe Rotella from Create and Craft, Cadre Expert, which is Ben Bouchard, Tracy Morrow Design, Deco Art, Anna Marie Design, Stamp Art, Stampendous, Pinso, and there's many more that is coming. So it'll be just an exciting 2 days of creating. So you don't want to miss out on those 2 days. Again, make sure you put it on your calendar. We will be starting at noon Eastern. And you can see us again on our Facebook pages, but it also will be posted on our YouTube channel afterwards. So, and any other or any companies or designers out there that want to be part of that day, please let me know as soon as possible. Our space in Livingston, and there's not a lot of space left for the 2 days. We have some spots. So if you want to participate as a presenter, please let me know as soon as possible. So. Also, we talk about the kids going back to school. I know my granddaughter goes back to school next week. There's lots of kids and grandchildren that have, started this week, or some even last week, I see. And there's so many different things that we can do maybe to help that transition a little bit easier and safer. Also for people who are going back to work perhaps, or whether they're going full-time or part-time. So just a few things that I saw that I thought I'd share. One was to make sure they're all caught up on their shots. A lot of families have fallen behind on their shots with the kids because they're not going to the doctor. So just make sure that's one thing, that you're caught up on the shots. And even yourself, your flu shot, perhaps it's a good idea to get that. Hold off on hugs. I know it's really hard for the kiddos, but just maybe say to them, right now, just no hugs with all your friends at school, and your teachers. They just love to hug their teacher and their friends and things like that. So, maybe you can teach them some sort of a new hug, just kind of like with the elbow, or a little back hug, or I don't know, get creative and fun. It'll be a fun thing for them to come up with. Also, the sing your way to hygiene. I know that's one thing that my grandchildren do, that when they're washing their hands, to make sure you tell them to like sing happy birthday, or sing the ABCs, or something like that, or a song that they like, so that it takes at least 20 seconds, I guess, for them to, properly wash their hands. So, if they're singing a song, the time goes much faster, and, that at least they'll get a good wash in. And mask wearing. I know it's really hard for the kids right now. They have to wear a mask all day, and a lot of times they're not used to it. So, they're really recommending that, maybe have them wear it at home sometimes, or, if you're going in the car someplace, say, let's just put our masks on while we're in the car, or make a game out of it, just so that they get used to wearing the mask more, and it just becomes a little bit more routine part of their day. And with that, I mean, a lot of people are trying to figure out, how are we going to wear this mask, and where are the kids going to put it? So, of course, I mean, this is my daughter, Corey, who just got back from Korea, and she brought these cute little masks home from Korea. This one has little bunnies on it. And this one has sharks, which reminds me of that song, that baby shark, mama shark. But this is so neat. In Korea, they have these lanyards, which they've decorated and made really neat. You know, like it's got a really little pop off thing there, and they've got little happy faces on it. So that way the kids can wear their mask while they're at school, but then when they don't need them, when they're outside or they're eating, it's just laying down. They're not gonna, you know, see how it's just sitting there. So they don't have to put it in a container. They don't have to, it'll get lost, fall on the floor, all that sort of thing. So just a really neat idea. And I mean, they sell these, of course, in Korea, because that's one thing they've been doing forever, is wearing masks. I'm sure there's going to be some coming out here, but it really is simple to make. Like, I was even thinking, I had this lanyard that I wear sometimes when I go to shows, because I'm always representing Canada, Pin It Canada, that sort of thing. So, I mean, it just has one little clip, but you definitely could just kind of clip on the mask on one side. So then it'll hang like this in front of the child. So, but I'm sure we're all creative out there. I'm sure you can think of something that will work, just to make it a little bit easier, so that they're not losing their mask, they're not dropping them on the floor, that sort of thing. So my friend Jen Tryon also had a neat idea that she had a video the other day, I noticed, and it's called a buff style mask for kids, and made from their old t-shirts. So I just thought that was very neat as well, and just wanted to share with you that video of hers. Let me get myself here. Right there she is, and take a look.
Hi there, I'm Jennifer Tryon, and today, just in time for back to school, I'm going to show you how to make these cute little buff style face masks. I'm using my Janome serger to make up these masks in less than 1 minute. These are a must-do for back to school. So for this project, I'm using an old t-shirt. I need a cutting mat, my serger, cutting ruler, and a rotary cutter. So choose a t-shirt that's too small, one that your child likes the fabric. Maybe it has a logo that they love or a team that they love. This one has pineapples and palm trees, so it's gonna go with everything. So you're gonna start by just cutting off the arms. Make sure you line your t-shirt up on your mat. Off with the arms. And now measure over about 8 inches. And cut off the other arm. And then next, cut off the neck and go as close up to the neck edge as you can, making sure everything stays nice and straight against your mat. And you may just want to leave the bottom because it already has the edge, like the seam on it, but I'm just going to square everything up. So now I'm going to take the t-shirt. You've basically got a rectangle that measures about 8 inches by 14 inches, but this can vary based on how big or small the person is you're making it for. And then I'm going to place my fabric right sides together. So that means the patterns are going to touch. And then I'm just going to serge along both of these edges. Okay, that's one side done. These are so fast. And now I'm just going to serge along the other edge. Trim your threads and then just turn this right side out, but only halfway. And there, you have the perfect little kid size buff mask. So if you want to make this for a big kid or an adult, I would cut your material about 9 by 14 inches in length. And because this mask is 2 layers of cotton, you've still got room to put your filter in. And it'll just lay nicely inside there and won't fall out. And I love these for kids that need them at school, because when they're done wearing them, they can just pull them down and keep them on, rather than have to unloop them and take them off, preventing them from getting lost. So based on the size of your child or your person, you'll just vary the width of the t-shirt that you're cutting. For an adult, I like to go as big as 9 or 10 inches. For really little kids, about 7 or 8 inches. But you can see, you can have lots of fun with these, use some of their favorite logos, even a team shirt that's too small. These are all things that you've paid good money for and can continue to use when you upcycle them in this way. I hope you've been inspired to use your Janome serger to make a buff style mask for back to school. Thanks for watching. I'm Jennifer Tryon.
What a great idea. I'm definitely going to have to do that. I know my granddaughter will have t-shirts and that don't fit her anymore. And I know I have some around too. So, and I know Jen used a serger. A lot of us don't have a serger. It'll work just as fine. I'm going to use my regular sewing machine and maybe do a zigzag stitch along the edges. So that will work too. So thank you, Jen. Just great ideas. And yep, something we can quickly whip up. So today, I'm so excited. We have our live guest today is Angela Fehr. She's from Dawson Creek, BC. She has a 25-year love affair with watercolor and has taught for that many and taught Angela that is the heart that gives life to our art since 2013. Let me see if I can find her here. Since 2013, Angela has empowered watercolor lovers all over the world, and with her gentle, open, and authentic approach to teaching loose watercolor, an approach that allows painters to make peace with the learning process. Angela's online courses have inspired thousands of students and can be found on learn.angelafehr.com. Her extensive course list includes Learn Watercolor, The Heart-Led Way, and Heart-Led Landscape in Watercolor. Says her fearless artist community is full of students exploring heart-led expressions, posting their experiments, and discussing ways to break out of fear as they become their own favorite artist. And let me see, I'm trying to find, there she is. There she is. She's joining us, I believe. There we go. Hi, Angela.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, Audrey. I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, we're so pleased to have you. This is just wonderful.
We're going to have fun today.
We are definitely going to have fun today. So maybe you can tell everybody a little bit about yourself and, you know, where you're from. I know I said that you're from Dawson Creek, BC. So where is Dawson Creek, BC?
Dawson Creek is a little bit out of the way. When you think of BC, you think of Vancouver, you have to start driving about 12 hours to reach Dawson Creek. We're in northern British Columbia, and we are actually, our one claim to fame here in Dawson Creek is that we're mile zero of the Alaska Highway. And so we see a lot of tourists coming through on their way to Alaska. Of course, Dawson Creek is the first stop, so they don't usually stay very long. Here in Dawson Creek, we have a lovely little arts community. Our art gallery is in a old restored grain elevator. It's a beautiful spot, and it's where I first started learning art as a teenager. I took my first watercolor class in that art gallery.
Wow. So you've lived there like your whole life. That's where you're from.
Well, yes and no. I was born in Dawson Creek, but when I was about 10 years old, my parents got bit by the travel bug. They actually became missionaries, and I spent my teen years living in Papua New Guinea. And so when I graduated from high school, I came back and made Dawson my home base.
Very nice. Good. So how did you start your creative journey? How did you get into the creative art business?
Well, I've always been from a creative family. My mom and my grandmas are all quilters. I had an aunt who would just make whatever popped into her head and was totally fascinated by creativity. I ended up marrying into a creative family, a family of builders, and my husband builds hot rods. So we have always been a family who's into taking our ideas and making them come to life. And as a teenager, for me, that was art. And I resolved that when I moved back to Canada, I would take the first art class that was available. Fortunately for me, it was watercolor, because watercolor has turned out to have my heart. I have a love for watercolor like no other medium. I really feel like we're in a relationship together where I need to trust watercolor. I need to let it be what it is instead of trying to master it and control it.
Yeah.
And in about 7 years ago, I really started to recognize that I had made some mistakes when I was first learning watercolor. I thought that to have a good painting, I needed to have a perfect painting. I thought that I needed to show everyone how skilled I was, and that a good painting was always like the most technically accomplished. And when I started realizing that I was not allowing my heart to speak in my art, when I wasn't really being vulnerable. You know, when you're trying to be perfect, there's not a lot of room for a genuine authenticity. And so when I realized that I was really craving a more intuitive process, everything changed for me. I started painting differently. My art style changed, and my way of talking about watercolor. And I started, and because I needed someone to talk with about this, I started teaching on YouTube, just little light bulb moments that kind of were things that I was learning at the time, and I just wanted to share them. And through that, I found that I really had a love for connecting with people over watercolor. And I started teaching online. I started creating courses, and it's been about 7 years now.
Wow.
And I've been so fortunate to find watercolor lovers all over the world who I get to share this love of watercolor and this desire for that authenticity with. It's so much fun.
And that's amazing. You've been doing it for so long, because there's so many people that through the pandemic, once March, April started, they just started doing the online, and it's been a struggle. And you're like, oh, I've been doing this for 7 years.
Yeah, I'm like, this is my time. Well, at the same time, I think it's been a struggle for everyone, finding an equilibrium, I think. And also, I think it's a struggle right now to be creative. Creativity is supposed to be kind of a refuge and a solace for us. But when you're struggling emotionally, sometimes it can be hard to tap into that. And that's why I think it's really, really important at this time to come into the studio and let go of expectations. When I'm focused on a good outcome, I want my painting to turn out, therefore my studio time was valid. I really put a lot of pressure on myself, and I'm already living under a lot of pressure. I don't want that when I come to paint.
Yeah. You want it to be a relaxing, fun place to be, and
Yeah.
just be yourself and be creative.
Yeah, if we want that creative therapy, we have to think very hard about what our mindset is going in.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when we started the show too, back in April or whatever, that was kind of our focus, was as well, just to let people have fun, be creative, and learn different ways to be creative. Because we all know that when we're creative, everything else kind of goes away. It puts you in that happy spot, right? Yeah.
I think it's like children. Little kids don't think about the time when they're playing. They just get out there and they're just completely in the moment. And I think we really need that. And I really know when I'm in my creative flow, because time falls away. And I look for ways to turn off the clock and just be in that moment.
Perfect. And you're also working on some online courses. So what is that all about? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, so we have a number of things that we do right now. Because I've been doing this for 7 years, I actually have 28 online courses. That's too many.
Wow.
That's really hard to know what to choose from when you go to my website and try to figure out what course is right for you. So last year we created something we call the Fearless Artist Community, which is an opportunity for students to access a membership community where they can share their work, and then also be able to go through any one of those 27 or 28 courses. They're all there in the bundle. So we've provided that, and that's been really rewarding. One of our most popular courses, and it's the one I'm actually working on a manuscript for, I'd like to see it in book form, is my course, Heart-Led Landscapes in Watercolor. with the idea being that we are often very tied to our reference photo and a literal interpretation of a landscape. But for me, I really want to share more of the emotions I felt when I saw that scene. It's kind of like connecting your memory with your location. And so I'm sharing in the course and in the upcoming book how to kind of connect to that and really get a little deeper than just showing people what you see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's great. So when do you think that book's going to be available? What's the
Oh my goodness, this has been the scariest, biggest project I've ever done. And I'm happy to say that I'm almost completed the first draft of the manuscript. I'm actually booking a photographer this month to come in, and we'll get some pictures put together for the book. And then from there, I think things should hopefully move a little faster and I can have a publication early next year. Hoping.
Yep. Awesome. So what are you going to show for us today? What are you going to do for us today?
I have to confess that I had to pivot a little bit after we talked and did our planning session earlier this week, because I went for a walk yesterday with my dog and the leaves are starting to change. And I'm just going to try to switch my camera.
And I'm going to pin you as well.
Yeah, okay.
So there we go.
So I'm just switching my camera over, and as you can see, I've got a pile of leaves here. And of course, in northern BC, we get fall a little bit sooner than everyone else, so I'm ahead of you. It's the one time where we get a season earlier than everyone. Oh, I guess in winter too. But I was out walking in the forest with my dog, and just look at these leaves here. We have such diversity of colors. These are the ones I think of when I go for a walk, because the color there is so gorgeous. And then we have some high bush cranberries, and they smell like sweaty socks when you're walking through the forest. That's the smell I think of, but they're beautiful. And then this one, I saw it, and it was, this beautiful banana yellow. But then when I flipped it over, we've got this pink on the back side of the leaves. And so we get this beautiful color, we get interesting shape. And as I was walking in the forest, I thought, so often when we see stuff like this, we think, okay, I'm going to go into the studio and I'm going to paint a leaf. And that's a great way to be inspired, but it's not the only way to be inspired by this stuff. So I'm going to just grab a brush here, and I'm going to go with my old standard, which is just a tall round brush. My paper's already dirty from the leaves I brought in. And actually, leaves remind us as well that imperfection is totally okay. They're wrinkled up, they're bitten by bugs, there's little dead spots and patches here, and they're still beautiful. And so I want that for my art as well. And I'm just going to start by making a little wet leaf shape with a little bit of yellow on my brush. So we're going to just paint one quick leaf in the corner, and I want to get into that state of creative flow. And to paint quickly, I want to use the side of my brush rather than just the point. I'm not drawing in a coloring book, but I can use the side of my brush to make a nice big stroke. Let's do one more leaf. Oh, 3. Odd numbers are good. And so we'll start with that. So I used a juicy brush. So I have enough moisture on there that I'm seeing a little bit of a gloss on my paper. And I know that if I add in another color right now, and I'm going to take my cue from this bright back side of this leaf and add just a hint of magenta. I'm going to go right along the edge here. And I know that when I add color at this stage, because my paper, my paint was quite moist, and I'm using really good quality cotton paper, you can see I get some flow happening right away. And whenever I see the paint moving, I know I'm letting watercolor do its thing. Let's pull a stem down. And there we have this beautiful leaf shape, just like that. And that's 2 colors. That's my yellow, which for my students in my community who have who are here watching today and have maybe a lot of these colors, it's Nicolezo yellow, and this is called quinacridone magenta, but any bright yellow and any bright pink will work. I'm also going to drop in some green and remind our leaves that we have some summer colors still remaining, and I'm just tapping gently with my brush, not too hard, because if you tap hard when you're trying to make spatter, your spots that come down will elongate. So I like to tap lightly so I get a nice round shape. And that gives me a little bit of green, and you can see it kind of radiating into my leaf where it landed on the wet leaves. So that was kind of fun. But before I move on, again, I want to invite watercolor to play with me. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water with a spray bottle. And this really takes control right out of my hands. And that helps if you're struggling with perfectionistic tendencies. Your spray bottle can be your best friend because it forces you to loosen up and to play. I have a long pointy brush. I'm going to find it here, called a dagger striper. Oh, this one will work. And you can see it's got this really long whippy body, and that's another way to take control out of your hands. I'm going to grab an orange this time. This is called Aussie Red Gold. And I'm just going to define one edge of this leaf. When I sprayed with my spray bottle, I kind of lost some of my edges. So I can just place them back in again. And, you know, you can see that little wiggle in that brush is really fun. But before we actually get obsessed with drawing shapes with our brushes, it's so easy to start painting and then just focus on drawing those shapes. I'm going to put a little more magenta in because look at how alive that color is.
That's beautiful. I love that color.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Now, just a quick question.
Yes.
What paints do you use, and what is the name of that brush again?
Okay, well, this brush style is called a dagger striper. This particular one is made by Neef, but Cheap Joe's Art Stuff also makes a really nice dagger striper brush. And the paint I like to use is primarily tube paints. Daniel Smith is one of my favorite brands. And Core is another. I think the magenta comes from Core, which is spelled Q-O-R. Now, I want to get away from working with my brush. We tend to think about painting as putting paint on paper, but we can do so much more with our brush than just putting paint on paper. So I want to grab one of my leaves here, and I think we need one with a fairly textural reverse side. I think this one looks pretty good. It's got a really strong vein pattern here. And I'm going to just try putting some paint right on the leaf, and we're going to try stamping with our leaf and see where we get. And for your sake, I would ordinarily maybe start with the yellow, but since we're on video and I know it can be hard to see yellow on video, let's work with a little bit darker color, and we'll use just a rich orange here. And this is called quinacridone sienna. Yes. And with watercolor, you know, you can stamp with other paints and you're going to see a different result because watercolor is, you know, primarily watery. We really end up with, you can see the paint kind of beading on there. It doesn't just sit in place because it is so fluid. And so this starts to create an unpredictable result. And we're going to stamp this two ways. I'm going to try, first of all, stamping it on the dry paper. But if I don't get the result I want, then I'm going to try stamping it on wet paper and we'll compare the two. And what I like to think of here is how the leaves can inspire. So you can see that's kind of a wet mess right now. We don't really see the veins. Let's stamp a second time. Printmakers call that a ghost print. But I'm being inspired by more than just the shapes of the leaves and the way they look. I'm being inspired by the colors. And then now I'm starting to get more of a leaf pattern here. I'm being inspired by the shapes, yes, and the textures as well. And I can use my leaves not just to inspire how the painting should look, but also maybe how it should feel. Those vibrant colors, those irregularities. And I'm just going to keep stamping until I feel like I'm completely out of paint. And it's giving me little, you know, really delicate effects. And that's one thing I love about watercolor is the delicacy that I see there. I'm going to try zooming in a little bit too. There, that should feel a little bit better. And now I'm going to use, let's try using two colors and let's try stamping onto wet paper as well. as dry. I am trying to keep my paint just a little bit drier, maybe less fluid than I might ordinarily start a painting with. Let's dot in a green. I grabbed Cascade Green this time. So now I've got a little mass of 3 colors, maybe a little more of the sienna here. And it is pretty wet, so I think I'm probably going to get a blob for my first try. We'll give it a second. And I'm going to just wet this area here, so we stamp on wet as well as dry. So let's start with our big blob, and we'll put that maybe over here. And I dragged it a little bit, so there's this like blotch that I actually kind of like. It extends that leaf shape just a little bit. So that's kind of untidy, but it gives us a beautiful mass of colors. And it really is taking, one thing I like is that my hand is off the pencil, you know, or the paintbrush. And, you know, a pencil, when we think about working with a pencil, we think about drawing detail, we think about drawing with control. And often we feel that way about our brush too. So when I'm working with my hands and these unusual tools, and I'm getting some really beautiful colors here. And actually this is really pretty too. Let's stamp over in this damp area down here. But, you know, I just keep stepping back as an artist and giving a kind of a buffer between my desire for control and then the fluidity of the paper. And, you know, letting go of the paintbrush and letting the leaf do the painting is a really good way of doing that. I'm just going to use that damp brush right now and encourage this little mass of color to flow here. And then a little spatter. I had excess color on my brush and I like this neutral color, so I'm going to spatter it over here. And then let's play a little bit more. I have paint on my fingers now, which I could totally use. I'm wondering actually about maybe using my leaf as a stencil as well, or a mask, and painting around it a little bit. So I'm just painting over the leaf and I'm going to see a little bit of that edge maybe pop forward. Again, with watercolor, because it bleeds a bit, a lot of people don't like using painting with leaves or using a technique like this stamping because it is unpredictable. It doesn't do what you expect it to do. We do get a pretty edge right there. And then let's add some paint to the leaf and flip it over and stamp. And just a hint, there's some real delicacy to what's being created here, and I really like that. But, you know, inviting unpredictability into your painting process. I talked about watercolor being we're going to go back to the magenta again. I talked about watercolor being a place where I'm in a relationship. And so I have to invite watercolor to speak up. You don't have a very good relationship with someone if you never let them talk. So, you know, we're letting watercolor speak a little bit here. I'm not rushing, and I'm really also inviting in these inspirational colors and shapes of the leaves, and inviting them in so much that I'm giving them a little bit of control over what happens in my painting. Isn't that so pretty? We're going to actually go a little bit, even more, a little bit extreme here. I'm actually going to take my leaf. I'm going to dip it in my water. This is uncharted territory for me. So just so you know, I'm going to press my leaf right into my palette cup. And this is what happens when you invite inspiration in. Suddenly you start getting ideas like, oh, maybe I should try this. And I'm going to stamp that right over here, half on dry paper and half on wet. And my dirty fingers are invited in here. So we're just going to smudge that around a little bit and lift it off. Oh, that's super pretty. Oh, I like that.
Very neat.
Okay, now we're going to go do one other crazy thing. How are we doing for time? I'm not.
I think we have about 5 minutes left. So no,
okay,
you're doing it awesome. I'm just really enjoying sitting back and just watching it. Watching it all unfold.
And this is really the open-endedness of this painting process is that I don't know if this is going to turn out to be a painting I could ever frame or hang or anything like that. This is called Schminke Aqua Bronze. This is a powder that is made to be, whoops, I just spilled some, made to be added to water. But I'm going to dip, I'm going to dip my leaf in it. Sorry, I've forgotten there's a camera at this point. Because look at how much fun it becomes to just say, what if I tried something really crazy? And we try it and we see where it takes us. And then that willingness to lend yourself to that crazy idea leads you into the next idea. And this is something that I'm so inspired by. I'm going to spray my leaf now. It's got a little bit of paint on it still. And a little bit of that gold too. So pretty. This is what I love seeing in my online community, the Fearless Artist community, as my students start to explore their what ifs. And we all inspire each other because there's so much courage in just saying, I'm going to play and I'm not going to worry about the outcome. But, you know, maybe there will be some discoveries made that are going to inform my future paintings. Even if today I don't make something that I can frame, I'm sure going to have a lot of fun. And I just think it's so rewarding to come in and just enjoy watercolor for what it is and what it does, get to know it. I'm going to just work with a little bit of line to kind of create some of those leaf edges that we don't really get when we're stamping. But, you know, I'm coming into the studio and I'm just here to play with watercolor, and I'm not asking it to, it doesn't owe me anything. You know, it doesn't owe me a great painting today, but maybe we can just enjoy some creative time together. And maybe I can just lose track of time and let the world fall away a little bit as I kind of chase my what ifs. And I try to use a light touch. I try to avoid urgency, feeling like I need to rush, even feeling like I need to do something spectacular, which is hard not to do when you're planning to paint live on video. You know, the goal, you always want to paint something beautiful, but I would so much rather model to you and to my students an openness to the creative process and a willingness to let it kind of take its time and do its work in its time. I don't think it's a beautiful process when we kind of force it to perform for us.
I think for so many artists that they're always wanting perfection that first time, but I think just the idea of, you know, having the watercolor paper and just, you know, playing with it like you're doing, and you're creating something amazing with those colors.
Well,
so many people have commented that they're going to go out for a walk and go see, gather some leaves and be inspired as well. Now, Sue has asked as well, is there a difference between hot press and cotton papers? What do you use?
We can talk paper a little bit. I'm just going to wipe my hands and then I'll come over and answer some questions. I actually have gold fingertips now. That aqua bronze is like everywhere. But yeah, I'm working on 100% cotton paper, and the 100% cotton is describing the what the paper's made of. And 100% cotton, I really feel like it's the best choice if you want to paint loosely. I'm just switching my camera over. It's the best choice if you want to paint loosely because it is so receptive to adding water and letting the paint move and flow. And so I really encourage students to buy the 100% cotton. However, it does come in different textures. So cold press is what I'm using. It's a lightly textured paper. Hot press is quite a bit smoother and it does flow differently. And many loose artists prefer hot press. So there's different preferences depending on just what you like and what feels good. And for me, I believe a beautiful painting comes from a beautiful process. It comes from, you know, my walk in the woods that informed my inspiration today. And it comes from the feeling of the tools in my hands. Working with brushes and paper that feel like artist stuff, And so, yeah, it's hard with watercolor because our paper is our most costly resource. Oil or acrylic painters, you know, they can put layer and layer and layer onto their canvas, so they can see a finished painting result. Whereas for watercolor, we often our successive layers happen in multiple sheets of paper. And I really try not to think about the cost of my paper, because at the end of the day, actually, you can have a very what's the word, prolific painting practice for the cost of, you know, a good coffee. You know, if you're, I would suggest to students, you know, if you can budget $20 or $40 a month on watercolor paper, do it and see how much paper that gives you. And you'll probably end up with more than you think. More paper than you think, and a little extra at the end of the month. So, and have fun with it. Paper's purpose is to be filled. And we get creatively blocked by this idea of wasting product. When our skills are built through practice, you know, we just want to put those brush miles down so that our process does become more intuitive and more natural because we're comfortable with the materials.
Very nice. A few people have asked as well if they want to get more information, or when do you have your Zoom classes?
Well, all the information on my courses is available on my website at angelafehr.com. So I always have stuff ongoing there. The Fearless Artist community, we not only have the bundle, which offers all of those courses that I mentioned, but I do live broadcasts a couple times, at least twice a month, for that student community, generally on a Tuesday afternoons. It depends on my kids' school schedule a little bit, whether or not I'm teaching in the morning or afternoon. But I do.
And is that community that you're talking about? That's through a Facebook group?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's actually a private members community. We really wanted something that you know, not everyone's comfortable using Facebook, so we wanted something that was available for everyone.
And people can find that information on your website as well.
Yes, yes, at angelafehr.com.
Well, this has been such a pleasure, and just thoroughly enjoyed watching you play. Watercolor is not I've tried it a couple of times, but just watching you do that, I am definitely going to go back and try watercolor again. That looks like so much fun and just very inspirational. Like you said, just kind of take things, and you don't have to just use your brush. You can use your fingers, you can use leaves, you can use what you have in nature, or what you have in your studio, for sure.
Yeah, it's really get out of your own way and just let that inner child out, you know, come to play, and be willing to be a little bit silly, and let your creativity be non-linear. It's not supposed to be predictable. Creativity kind of comes from an element of surprise. So we want to invite that into the studio.
Perfect. So now, are your kids back to school as well?
They actually just left. They're starting about 2 minutes ago. Class started for them. So this is their first year. They're all teenagers. So this is their first year going, driving in their own vehicle, actually. And so I got to send off my oldest, drove the other two to school. And
oh, wow. Another journey for them and for you as well, right?
Yeah, everything's always changing, isn't it?
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Angela, for being with us. And I know Corey's already put a couple of times the link to your website, and we'll put some information there as well. So we so enjoyed having you with us.
Well, Take care. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye. Well, that was incredible. I think I was almost in tears a few times just watching her magic happen there. Like she said, sometimes it's just experimenting with different things and happy mistakes, right? We always say there's happy mistakes. So that was really inspirational. She's just an amazing person. I know there's so many people on that have said, you know, how amazing she is. Of an artist, of a giver, and I can see that she's so genuine. So thank you, Angela, again for being with us today. It's just been my pleasure to have you on the show. Just a little bit about next week's Audrey Live. As many as you know, we were supposed to be leaving on Monday for the Creative Arts Show in Alberta, Art Waves West. So we thought to celebrate it, we're going to do a special 2-hour Audrey Live next week. And it'll include a lot of the artists that were going to be at the show, a lot of the educators and vendors, and they will be sharing, what's new, what's the latest and greatest, and lots of demonstrations as well. So we're looking forward to that. So that is next week, Thursday, September 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern, right here. And we have our lineup includes Tracy Morrow, Cindy Ohama, Kim Evans, Manny from DeGlow's Den, Deb Mishima, Donna Duvall, Deb Antonick, and Tammy Jackson. And they will all be on our special Art Waves West edition of Audrey Live next week. So that'll be from 1 till approximately 3. We might go over, it's just, it is what it is. And we just want people to be creative. We want them to get inspired and just share information so that you can learn and we can learn as well. So I wanted to read a quick little post. A friend of mine for a long time now, Miss Ruth Cook, who actually doesn't live that far from us here. She put a post on Facebook, and it's just something I wanted to share because it's just something that, as we're going through our days of new things happening within our lives, I just thought that that was really a good reminder. So thank you, Ruth Cook, for that. And I think she's actually on. I see a couple friends of hers on there too, Sue, and many others. So she says, as the world fights to figure everything out, I'll be holding doors for strangers, letting people cut in front of me in traffic, saying good morning, keeping babies entertained in grocery lines, stopping to talk to someone who is lonely, tipping generously, waving at police, sharing food, giving children a thumbs up, being patient with those sales clerks, smiling at passerby, and buying a stranger a cup of coffee. Why? Because I will not stand to live in a world where love is invisible. Join me in showing kindness, understanding, and judging less. Be kind to a stranger. Give grace to people who may be having a bad day. Be forgiving with yourself. If you can't find kindness, be kindness. And I know we've talked about that earlier on when COVID began, how kindness and doing things for others is so it's important, but it's much more important as the days go on. So thank you, Ruth, so much for sharing that. I'm not quite sure who was the original author, where you got it from, so we'll have to give credit to him at some point in time. But I know I saw it on your Facebook page, and I just wanted to share that. So other than that, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, Pin It Canada, where you can see all of our shows. Make sure you subscribe and ring that little bell or hit that little bell. That way, any new shows that we post, you'll get notification when they are posted. So if you miss one, then at least you'll get that little notification to saying, it's up. And it should be up by the end of today or tomorrow, today's show. So if you want to go back and watch Angela and her amazing painting, her watercolor painting there, you can go back and see that. And also Jen Tryon, how she made those buff masks. So just enjoy your week, enjoy your weekend, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we will see you next week on Audrey Live. Thank you for joining us. Bye, everybody.